Hi, welcome to my video on the Lee study, which was done in 1997 and is on the cross-cultural evaluations of lying and truth-telling. The Lee study is part of the developmental psychology area and follows on from the Kohlberg study, which you should have already done. If not, there is a refresher video on YouTube for you to have a look to refresh your memory. So both Lee and Kohlberg are in the core studies section of your psychology exam, and you will have already done Cheney and Bandura in your first year, and then you do Kohlberg and Lee in your second year. So this is the last study in the developmental area. The background to the Lee study, Piaget claimed that children don't have the use of intention until they get to the age of 11. So by that he means that children can't make moral judgments about lying and truth-telling properly until they get to that age, and that they rely primarily on how factual the statement is and whether they get punished if they tell a lie or not. So how seriously parents take it with them lying, telling. Put my teeth in. So how seriously the parents take it when children tell lies. However, going on from Piaget's research, there is now a general consensus that children actually can understand the difference between a lie and a truth very early on, sort of preschool age, so sort of like 3 to 5. And they can actually make accurate moral judgments. If any of you've got young brothers or sisters, or nieces and nephews, or children of your own, you will know that children do tend to lie quite a lot, quite regularly, and they do know the difference between right and wrong. My little girl, she's not even 2 yet, and she definitely knows when she's doing something that she shouldn't be doing. And frequently she'll say, oh, what have you been doing today? And she'll say things that aren't true. And whether she's doing that intentionally or not is what child psychologists argue, whether they're doing it on purpose or if that's just the first thing that they can remember or the first thing that's popped into their head. So Sweetser in 1987 argued that lying is a socio-cultural construct, and she argues that understanding of lying is influenced by cultural norms and moral values. So going on from what Kohlberg said about moral values, Sweetser argues that that's where you get your morals from your parents, from society, and then that in turn changes what a lie is. And in some cultures it's acceptable to lie, like white lies. If you are going to hurt somebody's feelings, for example, they might have the haircut and say, oh, do you like it, or do you like my new outfit? And you say, oh yeah, it's lovely, to avoid hurting their feelings. And in some ways this is culturally acceptable. So the research method for Lee was a lab experiment with independent measures design. Don't forget, independent measures design means that every participant took part in a different group. There are 2 IVs to Lee's study. The first one is whether participants heard the social or the physical story. And the second IV is whether the participant heard the pro-social story involving a child who intentionally carries out a good deed, or anti-social stories involving a child who intentionally carries out a bad deed. So therefore there are 4 conditions to Lee's study. The first is pro-social behaviour with truth-telling stories. The second is pro-social behaviour with lie-telling stories. The third is anti-social behaviour with lie-telling. And the fourth is anti-social behaviour with truth-telling. And we'll go into more detail about the actual stories in class. But basically they were given a story about a character who had either intentionally truth told or lie told, and then they were asked to rate their behaviour. Okay, but we'll go into more detail of the stories later on. The DVs, so what Lee's measuring, there were 2. The first is the rating given to the story's character, which ranged from very, very good to very, very naughty. And the second DV was the rating given to what the character said, the verbal statement, and that was rated from very, very good again to very, very naughty. The sample used was 120 Chinese children from elementary school. There were 47-year-olds, 20 male, 20 female, 49-year-olds, 20 male, 20 female, and 40 11-year-olds, 20 male and 20 female. Easy to remember. There were 108 Canadian children who compared to the Chinese children, also from elementary school. This one's not as easy to remember. There were 36 7-year-olds, 20 male and 16 female. There were 49-year-olds, 24 male and 16 female, and there were 32 11-year-olds, 14 male and 8 female. And these were all middle class. There was no information given on the Chinese children class structure, because they don't have a class structure which is comparable to Western culture. So it's very hard to make that comparison between them. Okay. So they were rated 4 scenarios, and they were asked to rate on a 7-point scale, which again ranged from very, very good to very, very naughty, which was then converted to a number to give them a quantitative analysis. So i.e. very, very good, they got a score of 3. And this made it easier to analyse the results and compare them, do statistical analysis and things like that. Okay, so the results of the Lee study. There were no significant difference between pro-social and anti-social in truth-telling scenarios. Chinese children rated truth-telling less positively and lie-telling as more positively in pro-social situations. So, in which situations where it is for the good of society, they actually rate lie-telling as a better behaviour. This indicates that the emphasis on modesty in Chinese culture overrides evaluations of lying. So Chinese children are taught not to big themselves up, and therefore will play that down over the good of society. Chinese and Canadian children rated truth-telling positively and lie-telling negatively in antisocial situations. So there's emphasis in both cultures of distinction between misdeed and truth and lie-telling. So, Lee came to the conclusion that there is a close relationship between socio-cultural practices and moral judgment. So there's a difference in the way that we bring our children up in the society with our parents, and this affects how they rate lie-telling in pro-social situations. Specific social and cultural norms do have an impact on children's developing moral judgment, and this is in turn affected by age and experience within a particular culture. Both cultures, so Chinese and Canadian, show similar moral evaluations, so the same view that hurtful behaviour is wrong. And there's an emphasis on self-effacement and modesty in Chinese culture, so that's not bigging themselves up, and that affects their moral judgments because they've been brought up to believe that collectivism is a positive attribute that contributes to their society overall. Okay, so that is the end of the Lee video. I hope that you've enjoyed it and it's answered any questions that you've got. If you do have any questions, bring them to class and we will go over them and go through any queries that you've got. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.